Hello friends, once again you are welcome to this channel, and this is Ijoma Jacob. Once again we want to handle Angular CLI for today. And why Angular CLI? In today's world, building enterprise application is in a high demand because there are problems that are necessary to be solved with applications, and especially huge application requires a good framework, and Angular seems to serve that purpose uh, due to its architecture and the makeup. Now, we want to look at what makes it more easier despite its complex architecture, what makes it to work with Angular. And this is why we're looking at Angular CLI. And what is CLI? Of course, it's a command line interface. And remember that what we want to consider actually is three things only because of our time. Just look at the high level view of the Angular CLI. Then we take a second step deeper to looking at what it works with, the schematics and the angular.json. And with that, we are good to go. But what are the objectives to achieve? All right, we have just three objectives. Number one, the CLI for what? For project, CLI for component, CLI for services, and CLI also for directives, pipes, and other things. The CLI serves a lot of purposes, especially in Angular application, because the Angular community and engineers have decided to design a CLI to make the production easy. And number two, we're looking at the role of schematics, especially Angular schematics. Then we'll also look at drilling into Angular.json file in our entire project. So, what is CLI for? It's simply a tool, a machine for building, developing, scaffolding, maintaining, testing, and debugging our application. And if it's a tool, that tells us that it makes works easy. And of course, that is the purpose of tools, to make work easy. Come on, why should I go and pull a nail from a wall or from a wood when I actually have a plier that can do that for me? Why then wanting to peel my fingers or break my hands to use my fingers to drive a nail into a wood? But there's a tool that you can do that. You can do that with, rather. So make use of the tool. So with Angular CLI, you can actually work with projects, components, services, and so on. All right, let's take on a project. First of all, you have to install the Angular CLI into your dev machine by doing npm install. With this command, you install it globally, and you can go ahead to run your ng-new, then the project name. And once that is done, Angular goes behind the scene, assembles your project and all that you need, package it, and put it in your project name that you have created, and you are fine. All right, it puts away all the jargons, the complex configurations that you need to do that are tasking and time involving. Angular CLI does that under the hood, just for you. All right, look at components. With this command, you generate your component, ng generate component, then your component name, and then the CLI serves your component in your project, inside your project. Then if you have need of services, then you can go ahead with ng generate service name, you generate your service that can serve your entire component. Because of course, in your Angular application, a lot of component is involved. There could be 10, 20, 40, 50 components. And having a services or having a service that serve each of the components, just one service makes work easy as you develop along, rather than having the need of a component and multiplying it in 50 components, where you can actually have a service that will serve each of the components and you are good to go. All right, so move over quickly to schematics. What is the role of schematics? What is schematics itself, and what does Angular schematics actually helps us out with? Okay, a schematic is just a template-based code generator or code modifier. Just like you can see on my screen, it gives us the blueprint. It's a template form that we can use to build all other things repeatedly. Because once I have the blueprint of a building, then I can build whatever I want, following that what? Following that blueprint. All right. And the schematic is just a set of instructions. That is worth noting. All right, so what is the role of the Angular schematics? The Angular CLI actually uses the schematic to generate and modify the Angular project. Generate from scratch or modify an existing project. And it works with the schema.json. All right, and this is a project for this, a code for the schema.json that the schematics actually work with. And of course, each of the commands passed by the user is validated on the schema. And these are some of the commands that we can pass as an option that can be validated here. We can find here the name. You can see in this place we have a description for the schema, which is the data type is object. It creates a new project by combining workspace and application schematics. All right. So we also have the name, which gives us the name of the new workspace and the initial project. And that is when we have when we are running for project and ng new, they will give a project name. And of course, this name is validated and it gives us the name for our project. Then we look at the skip install. There may be some dependencies and packages that you don't want in your development process. Then you can use the option skip install to get away with them or avoid them. Then we also have the link CLI. So we want to link the CLI to the global version of our development. All right, that is what we have here. Then if we move straight to angular.json, this gives us, this is usually at the root of the project for any Angular application, and the CLI works directly with this. Now there are key important code blocks we need to look at here to give us understanding of what the Angular.json contains. Actually, what we have in your screen, on my screen here, is actually giving us a high-level view of the content that are in the Angular.json, and this is the first part. This is the second part of the content of the Angular.json. The schema is also part of it. Our previous slide that we just considered is also part of the Angular.json. We have the schema, we have the output, the project are also a part of the Angular.json. Then the configuration for the project is also part of the Angular.json. So here we're having what? We're having the schematics, which I told you earlier is always part of the Angular.json. Since it carries the template for generating the code or modifying our code, then we actually need it. And if we need it, who needs it? The architect needs it. And that's why you're seeing the architect just below it. He's going to work with the plan. He has the plan. He's going to work with the blueprint. He's going to work with the template. And the template, the schematics hand over the template to the architect. The architect gives instruction to the builder. And this is what we're having build here. And once we run ng build from the command line, the build here has a builder inside. Just like in the construction, we have the blueprint is there, it has been designed. The architect shows the blueprint. Of course, there's a builder that's going to do it. It's not the architect that's going to build, definitely not. It's going to monitor the build with the plan to ensure that the builder builds according to the plan. And once the architect has the schematics, fine, then he orders the builder based on the command that the user fires on the command line. So when you run ng build from the command line, definitely the architect calls the builder that builds for ng build, and the browser generates the Angular dev kit generates what is required to build for the browser. And when you call ng test, the architect hands over to the calls on the test option in the angular.json. And the test code block has a builder inside also, which it will call, and the builder goes into action to test. And when a user also issues a command, ng serve, the architect orders also, just as you can see here, this is a serve and this is a code block. And in this, you can see where my mouse is. There's a builder inside this code block. As we proceed to the next slide, we'll give you a little breakdown of the content of this build, especially, which is mostly a repetition of what is in the serve block, code block, and downwards, just with little differences. But all is encapsulated under the architect. Tells us that the architect has the plan, which is already the schematics on which it is going to build on. It just monitors with that. Then the builder goes ahead to build. So as we move to the next slide. All right. So here is where the thing is. So we still have the architect here. You can see the schematics at the top here. These are just the prefix, the source folder, which you can find, SRC, which you can find root application, the app folder, which you can find there. Now, after that, then we'll have the architect in this place. Now, this is the build command, actually, that the user passes at the command line. And this is the builder that the architect calls on. And this builder, options, and the rest are encapsulated inside the build. And the build is entirely inside the architect. So this build that is here on line 17 is actually the build we are seeing here. And this code block we are seeing here is actually the code block that is being opened here. It's being opened here. And inside the build code block, the first thing and the first thing you are seeing there is the builder. And if I personalize it, use personification for it, it's actually a builder by name. It's actually built. So when we call it, it builds the Angular for browser. Then when we call for test, it calls on the Angular dev kit / camera to build for the Angular as well. When we call for server, for serve, ng serve, it calls on the Angular dev kit as well to serve, to work with the Angular dev server also. So those are the little nitty-gritties that you can find in the Angular.json, and that is what houses what most of the behind-the-scene activities for the Angular CLI. So in summary, Angular CLI is just a tool for building, developing, scaffolding, just as I've said earlier, maintaining and testing Angular application. And in fact, it is recommended for best practice in Angular development. All right, we have some few evaluations to take here. What is the CLI? What does it mean? You can go with A. I don't think so. If you are in between this class, you definitely go with B. Thumbs up, you have it. B is it. Then for taking the second, what are some of the contents of the architect's JSON block code in our Angular.json? Of course, if I should allow you, all right. Project, of course, is not there. Properties is not there. They're just above the architect's code block. And finally, C is an option. The build command, the build code block is part of the architect's JSON block code. All right. So in conclusion, Angular CLI. What is the benefit? What is the purpose? It's all a mission to improve development productivity and also to ensure best practices in the course of development, so that the application that actually comes out has better performance, serves the users, and makes business grow. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for tuning in into this channel for such a brief seminar or training on Angular CLI. And I hope to see you next time. Thank you.